Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Jason Haber, Associate Broker with Warburg Realty, for some insight on the New York City real estate market. And Jason, that has been a key market that we've been discussing through the COVID-19 pandemic and exactly where it could land once we start to get inoculations through the population. Are you starting to see some improvement, or are you looking more towards the second half?
Right. Well, I think you're going to see a much more robust market in the second half of the year. The question is when, though? When do we get to a point where people feel comfortable and confident back in the New York City market? And two things have to happen. The first is the vaccination programs need to be ramped up. And it seems like the governor and mayor are now finally taking steps to do so, which are really important. And then second is once that gets implemented, people then need to feel confident in the market. And I think that will come, because what we saw this fall were buyers were entering the market who were basically the risk takers. So they were the ones that were saying, well, we may have a dark winter ahead of us. New York may have challenges ahead, but prices are so much lower right now that I'm going to take the risk. And frankly, there were a lot of people that did that this fall. And now the second leg of that, we're going to see a different cohort of buyer, the ones that are now ready to dip their toe in the waters after seeing the worst behind us, or the perception of the worst behind us when it comes to the COVID crisis. And we know that January and February look like tough months still, but as the vaccine does get out there, we expect people to start to feel better as we head into the spring and summer months. And I think you'll then start to see that play out in the marketplace.
So relative to where we are now versus where we were with pre-COVID-19 levels, because the market was doing quite well before the pandemic impacted us globally, where are we relatively now? Are we 10, 20% down from pre-COVID-19 levels?
Well, our market was already down. Our market peaked in probably very early 2018, very late 2017. And then there was a slow decline since then. So right before COVID, we were finally starting to see some growth back into the market. Late fall, early winter were actually strong. And then, of course, the wind was let out of the sails when COVID came. So it wasn't like the market was up before and then came down like it was in, say, the 2009 economic crisis, where things unraveled very quickly, from peaks. And so instead here, so the market's down about 10 to 20% to answer your question, depending on which submarket you're in. But that was already down anywhere from 5 to 10% from that market peak. So prices were really low. And, where they go from here, my sense is that you'll start to see a return on value and, like probably the second half of the year. But again, it's a moving target because we don't know exactly how the vaccine programs will go.
I wonder if consumer habits have shifted on more of a permanent basis. Now that we know how to operate virtually, it's opened up our talent pools because you don't have to be within the city. And quite frankly, not everyone can afford the prices that the city commands. Maybe this is it a generational shift, perhaps, where you don't have to be in the city anymore?
The answer is yes. But Jill, what I would say to you is people choose cities. And so what we have to do in New York City is make the city worthy of that choice. And that means affordability is important, quality of life is important. All the things that make a city, vibrant and special and important have to actually play out into people's lives, because they can go elsewhere. They can go to the suburbs. They can go to Texas. They can go to Florida. They can go to North Carolina. There are lots of places where people are electing to go. City planners and city leaders have to make sure that the city is worthy of the choice of buyers and renters, and that people still want to come to the city. And that's something that's really important. That's going to play out over the next few years. We have a mayoral election come June. We have a changing of the guard here in the city. And we have to start planning now for the post-COVID future city. And that's a very important conversation for us to all have.
All right, Jason, great to catch up with you as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.